Welcome. Today we're going to learn about infinite limits. So we're going to begin. In this case, you will see a graph, and we have our function in 1, f of x equals minus 1 over x minus 1. And in item 2, we're going to be asked to find the limit as x approaches 1, and there's a little minus sign after the 1. That tells us we're looking at the limit as x approaches 1 from the left side. So let's see what we have here. If you look at item 3, we have this person who has jumped on our graph, and if you follow the arrow, we're headed towards 1, but we're approaching 1 from the left side in this case. And if you see at 1, we have that red dotted line. That red dotted line is a vertical asymptote. Our graph does not cross that. Think of it as kind of a barrier. And what happens is when we follow our person, is marching up our graph and heading towards 1, the graph actually increases without bound. And it's heading towards infinity. That's positive infinity, and that's where we wind up. So our limit as x approaches 1 from the left side is positive infinity. What happens if we approach 1 from the right side? Well, we have the exact same function, exact same graph here, but in item 2, we're being asked to find the limit as x approaches 1 from the right side. So, again, we have our person at 3 on the graph, and if you follow the arrow, they're heading towards 1 from the right side. Well, what happens? Our graph never crosses that vertical asymptote. Instead, it heads south. If you look at item 5, it heads in that direction, and it decreases without bound. In other words, it heads towards negative infinity, and that is our limit. What if I don't have a graph and I'm trying to find out these limits? What do I do then? Well, these are the same problems we just talked about. In item 1, we're approaching 1 from the right side. And let's just talk about that for a second. If we don't have a graph, well, what do? If you do direct substitution and replace x with 1, the denominator will be 0. So if you look at item 3, this is what you'll have, negative 1 over 0. Anytime you have a constant divided by 0, your result is infinity. The question is it positive or is it negative? So this is how you're going to find out. So we already know the result is infinity. We just don't know if it's positive or negative. So in item 4, since we're looking in this case at the situation where the limit where x is approaching 1 from the right side, we want to replace x with a number that is to the right of 1, but very close. So I've chosen 1.01 in item 4, replaced x with it. And if I plug that in, I'm going to get negative 1 over 0.01. Now, don't concern yourself with the number answer. We're only looking at the sign here. Well, it's going to be a negative. A negative over a positive is a negative result. That's how come I know it's negative infinity. What happens in item 2 when we're looking at the limit as x approaches 1 from the left side? Again, I know the result's infinity. It's just a question of is it positive or is it negative? So in item 5, we're selecting an x value that is now to the left of 1, which would be, in this case, I chose 0.99. You can choose anything, but it has to be to the left of 1. So I plug that in, and I get negative 1 over negative 0.01. Well, two negatives make a positive, so we have a positive result, which tells me the answer will be positive infinity. And that is infinite limits. Now go practice, practice, and practice some more.